Under raging storm clouds, the vampire Count Strahd von Zarevich stands silhouetted against the ancient walls of Castle Ravenloft. Rumbling thunder pounds the castle spires. The wind's howling increases as he turns his gaze downward towards the village of Barovia. Far below, yet not beyond his keen eyesight, a party of adventurers has just entered his domain. Strahd's face forms the barest hint of a smile as his dark plan unfolds. He knew they were coming, and he knows why they came, all according to his plan. Alright, so, if you couldn't tell from that, we're talking Curse of Strahd, baby!
Oh boy.
Alright.
Everyone's ready to slide on in.
Yeah. Been waiting on this one for a while, okay, everybody? Let's be honest.
Slide on in like Strahd wants to slide in on God, what's her name?
Irina's DMs.
Irina's DMs. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So for
I'm ashamed I made that joke.
Those who have not played or read Curse of Strahd, abandon ship now. This is going to be a spoiler review. We're going to in-depth talk about this book and its problems, its, successes, all of it. So if you feel up to the challenge, stay tuned here. All right. So, Curse of Strahd, little backstory from our group. I ran this 2-3 years ago now, I think it is. It's been a little bit of time.
Back in you started running it in
2018.
18.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2018, and we finished in 2017.
So 4 years. 4 years, yeah.
Well, don't
that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Anyway.
If we started in 2018, we ended in 2019. But yeah, so little bit here to kind of pick up with this. So we played through it. It kind of they succeeded. They kind of didn't. It depends on how you look at it. In the gothic horror sense, it was a great success, right?
No,
but
we failed. I succeeded.
Yes.
Yeah. So Panda Ghost's character turned evil towards the end of the campaign and saw an opportunity and seized it after the group helped him defeat Strahd.
Correct.
And in so doing, defeated the rest of the group in order for his own reign to begin.
Which actually kind of brings up my biggest complaint about the Curse of Strahd game. I know, like, controversial opinion here, but there's some stuff in Curse of Strahd, like in the Amber Temple, that is not fun. Well, it's fun, but it's totally
game breaking.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, how willing are we to give spoilers?
We gave a spoiler warning at the beginning. 100%.
Yeah, they've lost their chance. If you're in it, you're in it now. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So yeah, we're talking, if you don't know, about the I think it's the Staff of Ice or Staff of Cold in the Amber Temple. All right, that thing messed up my game so badly.
Like really bad.
Yeah,
you could say they put the game on ice.
Yeah. It came in at the right moment that it needed to happen in order to make Panda's character just go in completely power hungry and take up some of the dark power that resides within the Amber Temple.
So the staff that's in the Amber Temple is cursed, and it makes you power hungry. Like, it has a curse on it. It's just like, oh, your character now is just like, I want power. And inside the temple, there are these, what are they called? The Amber obelisks? Sarcophaguses that have dark and horrible powers. So if you're role playing properly and you have that curse on you and you have no one to cast remove curse on you,
which we didn't.
You're just gonna go through every room in the Amber Temple, find every sarcophagus, make a pact with some what are they? Gods or
they're like vestiges of dark powers and things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go talk to all of them. You're gonna get all these crazy messed up powers, and you're gonna become super evil.
Yeah, so what we're looking at here is if you have your Curse of Strahd book open, X17, the Upper West Hall, there's a Staff of Frost. The first character who touches the staff gains the following flaw: I crave power above all else and will do anything to obtain more of it. Now, the problem is that basically, per the text, Panda was basically, as if he's playing his character correctly, forced to say yes to any deals that would gain him power. Okay. And if you know some of the things that are in the Amber sarcophaguses, it gets pretty bad pretty quick. Now, the book...
Especially the side effects as well.
Yeah.
Well, so the book does try to help the player, I guess, in the mentality that if you take one of these and you take this power and gain flaws and things like that from these, you're supposed to lose your character to the DM. You are now an NPC under the DM's control. Now, I hate that idea. Okay? You made a choice. You should get to carry out that choice. The problem is I also probably should have limited the amount of things that you could have gained access to. I did not, and things quickly spiraled out of control.
I don't think you gave me access to... I think we missed, like, 4 of them or something.
We missed a couple because we're, like...
We couldn't pick the lock or something.
No, because, well, weren't we getting murdered by a slot or something?
Yeah.
Oh, no, we killed the Slod.
Well, you did die to the Slod, but you
Yeah,
had the
but I
regeneration
revived
thing.
myself with one of my dark powers.
Yeah. So anyway, needless to say, he quickly outpaced a lot of the rest of the party in terms of power. And so in the final fight against Strahd, him having some of this power still, he survived, the other players didn't, and he ended up killing those that were still kind of on the edge of life.
Which is only one person, to be
This is not anything new to D&D. Players turn evil occasionally. It happens, right? But it just kind of left a weird little aftertaste. So if you're running Curse of Strahd, or you haven't run it yet, take that goddamn staff out of the book. I'm sorry, It doesn't need to be in there, or at least remove the flaw thing. That doesn't need to be there. Okay? It'll ruin your game. Just get rid of it. All right? Aside from that, like, the main mechanics of the book and what's given to you as a DM are good, but loose. Okay? And by that I mean you're basically given like 15,000 plot lines of minor size and major size, depending on what you go to, and said, okay, choose which ones you want to do. We're not going to tell you how they end. Right? And that's fine. It allows the DM to create in that space and kind of come up with a story that they want to tell. But there are some things where I'm like, this kind of contradicts that. And it's in the same book, so I imagine that they're supposed to not contradict each other, and that just kind of gets a little unnecessarily convoluted, right? As well as there are some storylines that just kind of feel out of place in the game. At one point, there's the option to get a wedding dress for a flesh golem that's going to be presented to Strahd as a bride. That just feels completely unnecessarily stupid.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, so there is a Deva in the form of an abbot who has been corrupted and gone somewhat insane.
Yeah, I remember who you talked about. Yeah,
he created a flesh golem in the hopes that it would serve as a bride to Strahd and quell his otherwise angry mannerisms. And so his goal for the party, as a task for them, was to go back to Vallaki and get a wedding dress, and that way he could present it to Strahd, and it just makes no sense, right? It also doesn't have any benefit to the party at all, because obviously Strahd does not want a flesh golem bride.
That takes some adult toys to a whole nother level.
Yeah,
I didn't want to go there.
I'm sorry.
But it's a weird part of the
That's just
story that
bizarre.
doesn't need to happen. And that's why we didn't do it in my game.
Yeah.
Right. And that, I think, comes to my biggest, not gripe, but concern with the story. So there is 3 sets of gates, okay? One at either end of the valley and one in the middle, all right? The middle and the one all the way to the east are actually the bounds of what is the original story from the I-6 Ravenloft. There's some other small things still within those realms that weren't there, but for the most part, that's what it was, right? So once you get past that middle gate, you're in completely new territory, right? I think everything up into that gate is great. It fits. But I think after that, there's a lot that kind of just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And this is because they were trying to stretch this into a full campaign where before it was an adventure, right?
Right.
Not a bad idea. And I think for the most part, they did okay. I just think there were like some spots like that where I was like, I don't know what we're doing here. It seems needlessly additive, right?
Like defending the winery that we did. Like,
Yeah.
I can't for the life of me remember why we did that. Because we were asked by someone to go do it.
So basically,
Was
you
it a
keep
part of the
hearing as you're
McGuffin
going
quest?
through the towns that the wine is running out, and so people want wine, and then you're helping a bartender out get some wine. That's
It was
the main
Fetch
idea.
quest.
Yeah,
it was
but it
not
also
a part
has
of
the idea.
MacGuffin. So
No,
was
but
not
it also
part
has
of
part of the benefit of giving you access to the Keepers of the Feather, which are the Were Raven group in Barovia
Right.
that are allies to you. But it's kind of just like, well, you could have just given them that group without doing this weird little side quest. But again, they needed to fill time. And that's kind of, I think, my biggest gripe is that it feels like you're just buying time until that final confrontation in Ravenloft. Why don't you go there earlier? And if it kind of is implied that you could in the book, but why would you ever be allowed to leave? And
Well,
how do you get out of there?
Well,
You know
one
what I
problem
mean?
I felt was I constantly felt like we were being rushed. Like,
Sure.
it's like we're on a time frame, we're on a time frame, we're on a time frame, but there's no time frame in the book. Like, it doesn't act like if you take
Yeah.
2 days versus 5 days. I don't correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no difference, right?
Yeah, so there's 2 things with that. One, I mean, that could have been me DMing it, right? I'll take responsibility for some stuff. But the other thing would probably be that you kind of have this idea that Strahd is constantly hunting Irina, and you're trying to get her to safety, so you want to keep moving till you get to that safe place, right?
Right.
And it's kind of implied that the safest place for her, which there is no safe place, but it's implied that the safest place for her is in the village of Kresk, which is all the way on the other side of the map. And so you kind of don't stop till you get there, and then it becomes find the fortunes of Ravenloft, the items that you need to defeat Strahd. Right.
And the MacGuffins go fight Strahd.
Yeah. And then generally the way that I've always done it is when I'm ready for the players to have that final confrontation to go into Castle Ravenloft, generally is when Irina gets taken. Because she's not safe anywhere, so, just grab her when you feel the urge. And that seems kind of weird and just unnatural. Like, Strahd is... At the very beginning of the book, it's described that Strahd has visited Irina twice. And if he visits her a third time, she becomes a vampire under his control and all this stuff, right? But for the life of me, it is kind of implicitly implied, don't do that for a while. But why wouldn't he? You know what I mean? Like, it seems
Right.
a little weird. And I think, again, it just comes down to they're trying to stretch a short adventure into a long campaign, where if it was just the village of Barovia, you could have the village of Barovia being beset by, undead or whatever, and then one night Strahd just comes in and takes her right out from under you, and then you have to go to the castle to fight him off, right? But again, that doesn't last 10 levels. Like, it's supposed to in the book.
Right. And
So-
speaking of stretching the campaign, I have the unpopular opinion that I actually like the Death House. Now, I don't like how
Sure.
Wizards does this thing where everything has to start at first level, but out of all the adventures that are like that, the Death House isn't that bad. Like, it's not it's not the Descent into the Avernus one. Like,
yeah.
I enjoyed the Death House too. It just
like, it's so thematic, and
yeah, it's good. It's
there's
just,
so much like hidden lore in it. Like, it just
feels a little out of place though. Like, it's just like, oh hey, you gotta do this first.
Well, I don't like the railroad tracks that the book is supposed to put you on to get there. That I agree with.
Yeah.
I've seen some variations where they have the Death House be something that's on the road to Barovia instead of in the village.
Right. It
so
works
it's more
as
of a
just, like-
singular location.
Yeah, it works as a really good random encounter. And honestly, if you had if you're running any campaign that could potentially have like a really spooky thing in it, you could drop it in whatever. It doesn't have to be in Strahd.
Yeah.
Also,
And
there's a more organic way of incorporating the what did we call it, the Death House?
Death House. Everyone calls it
Mhm.
Death House.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's
Why
called.
not just why not put one of the MacGuffins in there? Then they have to go to it. Like, that's
So
I
my only problem with that is that it gets it to them real early, and a lot of those are very high power. Unless it's just the Tome of Strahd. The Tome of Strahd would be an okay one to give them off the bat, but the other two would just give them too much power right away.
Don't have no. Have them go and come, and once they get the fortune telling, have them don't make them go to it first thing. Make them go to it later. Maybe bump up the power of it, and then have them go back and do it.
Gotcha. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that would also work. I mean, I think what some people's gripes with it is that it's a little bit. There are two problems. One is some of the monsters are very easy to kill your party.
Isn't there like a couple of mimic doors? Oh yeah, the shades, and there's a mimic door.
There's some shadows, there's a mimic door, there's some specters, there's a shambling mound in the basement. Like, there's a lot going on there, and it's very easy to kill your party. Especially a party that's not really prone to take a lot of rests in between encounters. But I will say the story of that house and kind of what it allows you to introduce to the players is a good way to introduce the players to a gothic horror setting, especially if you have characters that are, because of the way the story kind of pulls them in from other realms, you could have, them be in things like the Forgotten Realms that are high fantasy and are all hunky-dory magic, and then they come into this dark world and this is their first taste of that, right? I think my biggest problem has always been just that I don't like that they kind of force the players there. Right. And you don't have to do that by any means, but just going off the story is written, that's kind of how it's supposed to be. And
you were also saying that the Death House. You just said it has a high probability of being very dangerous for low level players. So, like I said, you put one of the MacGuffins in there, have them come back to it later when they're a little higher level. It could just be the right power level for them right then and there. You might not even need to scale it up.
My other, trying to kind of move away from the Death House for a little bit. There's stuff online that you can find that reworks that a little bit for you, and these are also options for you. The other things I want to, go on is, I don't really care for. I liked the story of Irina originally, right? It's very Dracula-esque with, the former bride of the vampire, reincarnating into a present day entity and, so on and so forth. And I like that story. I just feel like maybe they should have written in something where Irina, and maybe you can run it this way in your games, that Irina's a little bit more trepidatious upon learning this. Like, she doesn't know this about herself, right? She is not Tatiana in all but the little bit of soul that is in her, right? Like she is her own person, and you should maybe use her to kind of develop that a little bit more, show her being afraid of this revelation maybe, or afraid of maybe Sergei is reaching out to her, or she's having visions of her former life, and it's very all disturbing to her, as well as there are other incarnations that she has gone through before coming to Irina, and so you could have some of that as like flavor. Like there's I believe her name is Marina in the village of Berez. There's a statue to her, and that's supposed to be another former iteration. You could have that be another way to get players to go to the village of Berez and interact with that, learn more about her past, and then it's becoming more about uncovering all this cycle of turmoil and abuse and whatever else, and it allows for a little bit more of an in-depth story moment for her and brings her a little bit more as a person rather than an item that you're just kind of carrying around, right? And you could also maybe make, at the end it's kind of implied that if she doesn't die from Strahd becoming a bride, she dies by going off into the afterlife with Sergei, which seems out of place when it's a completely different person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why doesn't she just live her life and then she can die later on? You know what I mean? Like, it fits the gothic horror feel, and I understand that, but I feel like there are other ways to maybe go about that. Like maybe she does die or is dying at the end of the adventure, and that is when that happens, rather than having this be just a essential suicidal act. To be honest, but it does fit some of the gothic horror things. But all in all, outside of these few things, and there's probably more that you can gripe on if you really nitpick the adventure. I do like it. I think it's my favorite adventure, which is why it kind of pains me a little bit to go so hard on it. But it's been a couple years since I've run the game, and I know some of the pitfalls that I ran into, and I want to make sure that you can elevate this already good game to something even better, rather than just kind of going off of what the book has, which is kind of just sometimes feels a little bit more aimless, right? Give it a little bit more form for you. Yeah, and as well as, just hopefully this helps you have your story not end with one of your players killing all the other ones. That would be my preference for you. So good luck and have some fun with the good old Strahd. Also, remember, guys, we just put out an announcement that we're going to be doing a Q&A video here shortly. We still have a couple slots open for questions, so make sure that you're either commenting on that announcement video or even commenting on this video down below. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube as well as follow us on Instagram to make sure that we see your question. But hopefully we'll get to that shortly here. But I think until next time, join us next time as we slide into DemDMs. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.